Hi there, it's Karen here, and I am with Whiskey Sour, my buddy. Somebody was asking me why I was calling him that. For those of you who are just tuning in, it's my St. Bernard. He is retired from going up into the mountains to take whiskey for the cold people. I don't know who those people are up in the mountains, the cold people. I'm not as cold now. It's supposed to be 70 today in Los Angeles, so that's a little nicer. Therefore, I just have on my thin slippers. I don't know if you can see those. They're my Halloween slippers. So they keep my feet just, nice reasonable temperature. I wrote a blog today called "Are You Too Invested at This Point?" I was watching 24, the television show, from bed last night, and I take my laptop and it helps me wind my brain down. So I either watch several episodes in a row or I fall asleep instantly. It just depends what happened that day. But last night, a quote off the show caught my ear. And the woman on the show said, "Some people are so invested in their fear and hatred that peace is the most threatening thing that they can imagine." And the part where she says, invested in fear and hatred, is especially striking to me because the word investment is usually attributed to money. We have our investments that we all have. Anyone who has ever had a stock go bad can testify to how painful that is. It's very damaging when you have to stare at a clicker all day when you are completely invested. If investments in stocks are just kind of a fun thing for you, or it's that you can afford to do that and you're not investing the whole farm or something, then it's not as damaging. But if you have everything invested and you have to stare at a clicker all day and then it goes bad, that can be extremely painful. And I think a lot of people who end up staring at that ticker too long also don't realize that their time and how you spend your time in a day is also an investment. I believe this is where the flaw is, thinking that the invested money is perhaps more valuable than the invested time. So I think it's important to find that kind of balance. It's the same as when we place money on a horse to win. If we aren't betting the whole farm on our horse, analogy, the sting shouldn't be so painful when they lose. Now, pride, I think, is a huge issue when a person loses. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. They don't want people to think they made a wrong choice. All their buddies or whatever around them made a wrong choice. And if you confidently lip off to your family that you believe something really wholeheartedly, and then all of a sudden you have to change your mind, or change the side that you were betting on in front of people who are your friends or your family or who have their eyeballs on you, that's, I think, where a lot of the problem happens. Just like a football fan has to cheer for a new team in secrecy amongst his buddies, so same with a husband who has to lie to his in-laws, perhaps, about how his marriage is not going well. If you have invested a lot of time and money on a team or on a relationship, you're going to feel like the fool the minute that your team has failed or that the relationship has failed. You're going to feel like a fool to people who see you, which is a lot of the reason why I say don't worry about what people think so much, but this does happen. We seldom bring up the opposite part, the positive swing on this. Those are the analogies we're used to giving, but what is the positive side to that? How did we get to be so threatened by something which is truly better for us? It seems silly, right? Is it that we hate being wrong, or is it that we're so invested in a political party or a religion or something that a relationship, which is more often the case with people, when you're really invested in that relationship in a negative way? We can't see something good wanting to heal us. Investment in their fear and hatred, this quote that she said, is just so striking to me because we really never think about it like that we are invested in our fear and our hatred. And as soon as she said it, my mind flashed back to everything that I ever thought was true, where someone truly enlightened me and got me out of that way of thinking. Enlightenment, that word gets thrown around a lot. And if you look at it carefully, the word light is in it. It's a very cool word. Now, of course, it could also mean clarification or an explanation, just depending how you're using the word. But I love when enlightenment actually makes me feel lighter or more at peace. I don't worry about what is right or wrong as much anymore. And I don't bathe in being right or standing up for what is right. I tend to do defense of a third party a lot, where if I see someone is hurting or someone is hurt, I kind of run to their defense. But my interest in finding peace rather than winning the fight, because I'm invested in being right, that's more what I'm going for. And there are actually no prizes, or ones that I'm remotely interested in anyway, for being right. I am extremely interested in peaceful dialogue. When you can sit across the table from somebody and have an adult conversation which is peaceful. That's what I'm interested in. And I could sit and listen to people who I think are wrong all day long if they are being peaceful about it. You can actually survive that. It's when people get heated and their voices go up and they have to stand up for what they believe in, and so therefore they got to get louder. I'm not interested in that. All of a sudden my ear just kind of shuts down because I don't hear what you're saying. If you have to yell at me 3 feet away from me, it's not necessary. And I believe most peaceful people don't tend to act that way anyway. You know, it's one thing to be right, and it's one thing to be peaceful, but I think most peaceful people are really less interested in proving their point or being right. Most people I have met who are truly at peace have no interest in being right or making anybody else around them believe they are right. And this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And of course, I always say I fail miserably every single day that I'm trying stuff, but I'm trying stuff. And I've invested a lot of time in the past on stating my case, on stating my cause, on trying to be right. But I'm so willing at this point to lose all that investment altogether and trade it in for some peace. Maybe I bet the whole farm and I'm willing to lose it in trading for peace. It's a scary proposition though, because it calls for change. It calls for sometimes change of your environment and things like that, but it calls for a change of thinking. And that's the scary proposition for people, is they have to change everything they've ever known. We're also very invested in our day-to-day habits and our day-to-day rituals, even if they're not good for us. We're invested. I believe this is why angry people get angrier when their partner or friend has no interest in fighting back. If you've ever tried to fight someone who has no interest in fighting you, if their goal is to be right, the last thing that they're going to want to do, if my personal goal, if I'm fighting somebody, is to be right, and I'm talking to a brick wall who has no interest in fighting me back, that's the last thing I'm going to want to be up against. I'm going to want somebody who fights back so that I can really feel my win when it's all said and done. They will enjoy getting in the face of the opposition and beat them into submission. So yes, peace is threatening to the cause. If you are truly invested in your fear and your hate and your argument, peace will be a threat to you. If that's the way that you conduct yourself, peace is going to be a threat. I don't think we can yell for peace. My question is, how can we make peace cool again? Trendy again. Not even in a John Lennon kind of way, but just simply in our homes. Let's start there. How can we have peace in our homes? How can we begin to view peace as a healer instead of just being afraid of it? Like, why is it such a threat to us to have some peace and quiet, or just some serenity? If you are a parent who has had to pry your 2 children apart, and you had to make them say they're sorry, you'll soon realize how peace is not the first option, even with children. With children who disagree, their first option is not to have a peaceful settlement. It's not something that we're just used to doing. I believe it's something we have to strive for, and it's something we have to learn. It doesn't come naturally, especially for very passionate people, and I would consider myself a very passionate person. Peace has not come naturally for me, especially being in a family of very, very hot-headed, passionate people. It doesn't come naturally, so it is something I have to work towards, and it's something I have to really strive for. And for anybody who is a passionate person or anybody who has engaging personalities, it's especially difficult. I think the answer that I find, and I always say the answer I find at this point because I could be enlightened tomorrow, but the answer that I think is to give up that previous investment. Just let it go. It's a bad investment. Let it go. You flunked, you failed, or whatever you did. It's fear and hate will almost always go flat eventually. It's a bad investment. It just is. And anybody who is a truly peaceful person or who is an enlightened person will tell you that that fear and hate is going to be a bad investment. So I believe that this shakeup, we could be viewing that as something exciting. Having peace in our homes could make room for all sorts of fun activities, for family time, for together time. If you can strive for peace, I don't think it has to be, oh, now my home is boring. I think now you've just made room for a whole bunch of cool stuff to happen in your home. And that can be exciting. That can be a really good thing. So I signed off today, crazy carpeting into the swamp. I gotta explain that one. When I was on the farm, we had crazy carpets. They're a lot like a sled, but I don't know who made them. They're just big hunks of plastic you jump on and go down the hill. And we'd always go into the swamp. And you know what? We almost died a lot of the time on our farm. My brother and I, we kind of had a rough go a lot of it. But we were enjoying each other's company, and those are the things. Those are all the things that we did on the farm. That was our investment of our time, is to actually spend time with each other. So crazy carpeting to the swamp. I was just thinking about that memory today, thinking how fun that was, and how too many families right now are arguing around the kitchen table, like I mentioned before, instead of crazy carpeting into a swamp. What would you rather do? I signed off with a Bob Hope quote, where he says, "I have too much money invested in sweaters." It might be difficult if you have a lot of money invested in sweaters. It might be difficult for you to move to a warmer climate. Just like if all your wardrobe is bikinis and shorts, you might not want to move north. Like whatever you have, whatever you are invested in, whatever could be good for you, could be a really scary proposition. And I think that's the problem is if we can get past that fear and hatred, like what this woman quoted in this TV show, peace is not a scary proposition. It actually just feels better. So anyway, I'm blithering on long enough here, but I just wanted to share that with you because I thought it was really interesting. But I will sign off for today, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow from Whiskey Sour and me. Say rock on, whiskey. Rock on, guys.